next time. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to your latest episode of the Business List, your weekly source for news inside the party across the country and around the world. We're LP Alliance and Intercaucus Coalition, rebuilding and revolutionizing the Libertarian Party. My name is Amanda Griffiths. I am joined by Rose Leatherman. I'm joined by Kyle Davis, and I'm joined by Rob Yates because he is our best Jake Porter impersonator that we possibly found off the street just outside my apartment. So he's here. Everyone, how are you doing?
Notice. It took me a moment when I logged in. I'm like, wait,
So
is that a new person? Okay.
I just said, can you do an impression of Jake?
Jake just got straight up transmogrified.
It happens. Yep. It happens. I'm like Calvin. I just need a hubs.
Exactly.
I'm doing great. How are y'all doing? Thank you for having me.
Fantastic. We're happy to have you. We're just going to keep you actually now. This is going to be a thing. You go to the backstage lair where I keep everyone else except for Kyle. He breaks in intentionally.
That's where we keep Devin.
Yes.
He's never allowed out during when we're on air.
We have news to get to. I thought this was going to be a world and national news heavy week, and then there was just this inundation of party news. So I think we should get to that. We have avoided reporting so much on the Region 1 alternate vote because it was essentially thought of as a done deal. And I don't know, to me, I consider alternates, they're the alternates, right? They don't usually do the main job of voting. Region 1, as everyone knows, is always carved out to be the Mises super region. It's still very Mises-centric. There were originally 2 individuals elected to be alternates 1 and 2. These were Austin Martin, as we call him, the crying Hawaiian, and James Wiley of LP Colorado fame. We recently learned, however, that James Wiley's election has been nullified because James Wiley's membership has lapsed. I want to say in his defense, everyone's member lapses sometimes, and it's nothing that we should be embarrassed about. I that's what I tell all of them. It's like a train; it comes back. But so his membership has lapsed, and how does this get past people exactly?
We went over this exactly last week, right?
I got this email saying that
Wiley
it was going to auto renew.
Bad at calendars. Jim Wiley can't read calendars. This is just facts. This is just the 4th piece of evidence in the last month. Jim Wiley doesn't understand calendars. So I would like to start a donation fund to teach Jim Wiley how to read calendars.
See, I got an email today saying that my membership was going to auto renew, and I'm like, I didn't even remember I checked the auto renew option, but that was very forward thinking of me for once, because mine totally would have lapsed otherwise. It's something I'm going to remember to do on time. So yeah, apparently that's an option. So I guess there's less excuse for letting it lapse.
And to be fair,
the executive director of Colorado running to be the chair. You would expect someone who is stepping up saying, I'm organized enough to run the state affiliate, would be able to read a calendar. But not Jim Wiley. He just has the gall to go for it. It doesn't matter if he has the ability. He believes that by the power of Jesus and Grayskull, he'll get there someday.
and by Big Mare Energy as well. Admittedly, I don't know exactly I don't know if this is sort of then the third runner-up type of situation or another round of voting. My sense is that there would be another round of voting. I don't know. I should know. I'm the secretary of LP Wisconsin. I don't know. So I'll get on that. But yeah, you would think that someone would do their due diligence in confirming the basic existence of a person's membership. No? Maybe not.
I don't see how you don't. I can't imagine being like, yes, I would like to elect this person who's not a member of the party to be a representative of the party. that usually that's step one. But again, he probably thought he was a member because he couldn't read the calendar.
It is a problem. It's sort of like I was about to go into a segue on Cheburashka goes to school, because the reason that Crocodile Gienah realizes that Cheburashka needs to go to school is because Cheburashka can't read the calendar. If anyone doesn't know what I'm talking about, you need to watch the entire original 4 episodes of Cheburashka from the Soviet Union. They are an amazing timeline, and it's just a timeline of the Russian Soviet psyche, just like disintegrating into absolute ambivalence and dejection. It's terrible, but it's also just a wonderful snapshot of history. I don't really know how I got on that subject, but at any rate, James Wiley.
It was the trot walk from our local Trotskyist.
Was that James Wiley is not eligible, I suppose, to be alternate number 2, although hypothetically, perhaps if he renewed his membership, he could resubmit his name. That's likely what he's going to try to do. Kyle, you were nodding.
Yeah, that's exactly what's expected. In this new age of Andrew Chatterton-led attack on R1, Jim Wiley is the man with the plan for the whatever you want to call that tiny band.
Well, now I want to see if he manages to win a second time, or if not being able to renew on time is a deal breaker for some people.
Look, Small Dicks Anonymous is going to go for their king.
If you can't make sure that your membership doesn't lapse, then can you be trusted with anything else?
That's my basic requirement.
Even I was forward thinking enough to have it auto renew. I'm actually
all I want is a man whose membership is not going to lapse, and we can't even do that in this country. Speaking of people who are no longer members of the Libertarian Party or just members of the Libertarian Party, I think we can break this. Former Libertarian Party vice presidential candidate Mike Termott is joining the Republican Liberty Caucus. Mike Termott has decided that the Republican Party is a good home for him and a good way to try and forward liberty. This is something that I think a lot of us have been gung-ho about from the beginning. If the Libertarian Party is not your home, but you are a friend of liberty, go to the Republican Party, go to the Democratic Party, and instill libertarian ideas. Make a caucus and lead that caucus. This is something that I think we've said, and people have taken it as being flippant. No, do that. That is going to be helpful. So I don't know if we're expecting some flood of criticism. Mike Termott was always seen as being a little bit more conservative than the average libertarian on certain issues. Does this come as a surprise to anyone?
Not particularly. And I do think that there is a place for people who have libertarian ideas, who think that if they get involved in one of the 2 major parties, maybe they can kind of start pulling it in the direction of being slightly less oppressive than it already is. Okay, I don't have super high hopes, but I do think there is a place for people who, at the very least, may be able to get up on the national stage the way Ron Paul was able to and speak out against, for example, the drug war or the warfare state. There is a place for people like that. And then once it's funny because if they're in the Libertarian Party, then I'm grading on the libertarian curve. So I'm going to be a lot more harsh. If they have a position that contradicts our principles. If they've joined the Republican Party or the Democratic Party, I'm going to be grading on a much different curve. I'm like, okay, they have these positions that are very libertarian leaning. So, okay, they may have all these other positions that are not in line with our principles, but I can at least say that they're better than all of their peers.
I agree with Rose. So I've actually known about this personally for a little bit. I talked to Mike a couple weeks ago about it. I'm not going to tell a whole lot from that conversation because it was private and everything. But I had been waiting for Chase Oliver to find out. And since I got notice that Chase found out today, and then we found out separately, I'm willing to talk about it a little bit. Mike has some really good concerns here. Mike is worried that the infighting in the party is something that's innate to the libertarian movement and that you have to have some kind of strong leadership and a strong structure for a party to survive. That's one of the things that we hear quite often from the Hobbians. That's one of the things we hear a lot of times from the more like conservative libertarians. I think that Mike believes in the libertarian message. I think he's trying to do that. And he's got a pretty good point about the Republican situation at the moment. The Republican Party is going through a giant reorganization right now, right? Like everyone can see MAGA. MAGA is not the majority of that party. We know that. We know the old Republicans are still like in the middle fighting for things, and they're dying off. They don't have anything there. MAGA is basically assuming that it's going to just take over this party and it's going to be the new Republican Party, but that's not guaranteed. And so if something like a Liberty Caucus can have some, especially Republican-minded Liberty folks in it, you know, people like Thomas Massey and Rand Paul and even Mike Tremont, there's a chance they could pull the Republican Party a little more toward liberty. Will I be joining the Republican Party? No. And I believe in the Libertarian Party. Does that make me an idiot? A lot of people who are going to watch this are going to say, yeah.
That's not what makes you an idiot, Kyle.
You're addicted to losing, clearly.
So addicted to losing too.
But yeah, I mean, if you think one of the major parties is the correct way to pull this country in the direction of just a tiny, tiny bit more liberty, by all means, go and join those. It's a problem for me when you stay in the Libertarian Party and then try to sell out to one of those parties or try to get us to work with them and compromise our principles. Okay, they have very different roles. Yeah, there are very different roles, I think, for a third party and for the two major parties.
Rob, you're allegedly a libertarian. Why have you not joined either the Republican or the Democratic parties? And is Mike Tremont a traitor to the cause?
No, I mean, so I thought about this year actually joining the Democrat Party to run for sheriff in the primary in my town because we have a horrible sheriff. And I probably on paper align more personally with the Republican Party than the Democratic Party. I think Kyle last week said something interesting, and it's my problem with the party. We were talking about Thomas Massey and how you'd have trouble supporting him because of the pull of the Uniparty. And I respectfully disagree on that one because I think he's like the only uncorruptible person maybe in like the history of our government. That being said, if Mike could join the Republican Party and pull them in the liberty direction, like, yeah, that's a huge win. I don't think it can happen. Like there was a time maybe 20 years ago when the Republican Party had these little hints of maybe going in a liberty and freedom direction. And then 9/11 happened and then the Patriot Act. And then they were just like, hey, fuck freedom. Like, we're going to spy on you. And then Trump came along, and I know we're going to get to this soon, but I think we sort of underestimate the influence that Trump had in pulling the Republican Party in an incredibly left socialist economic direction. And now you have like populism, nationalism, and socialism all coming together. You have Batyanger Sargon like as a cheerleader for Trump, and I like her. I mean, I think she's genuine. I think she's acting in good faith. I think she's wrong about everything. But I don't know, like, yeah, libertarians fight. That's what we do. It's the most frustrating thing in the world. Certainly, I have worked to bridge as many gaps as I can in North Carolina, but I'd still rather fight with y'all than watch, like, join, you know, the modern day Nazi party versus the modern day Communist Party.
Right. But this is a cycle that I've noticed seems to repeat maybe every decade or so, though things seem to be spiraling faster and faster now. There'll be, like, the two parties will be highly oppressive. People's appetite for liberty builds and builds until eventually you see what appears to be almost a libertarian movement emerging. Like, for example, in the 2010s, we had the Tea Party movement. Okay, these things, they may start out somewhat grassroots. They may start out with regular people who actually want liberty. They very quickly tend to get co-opted. And then, but what inevitably happens, people will think, oh, this is our big moment. Libertarians have the opportunity to get involved in government and help push policy in a more liberty-oriented direction. What always happens is there will be some kind of crisis. It could be a terrorist attack, could be an economic collapse. And then all of a sudden people will be like, oh, well, it'll be an excuse for the state to grab power. And then after the fact, they'll be like, oh, well, this happened because we listened to those stupid libertarians and we lowered our guard. We weren't spying on people enough because of their obsession with privacy and civil liberties, or because of their obsession with economic freedom and deregulated economies. And then they use that as an excuse for several years to crack down on economic freedom, to further erode our civil liberties. And then over time, people start realizing, hey, this really sucks. I have zero freedom. I have zero privacy. I can't afford to pay my bills. Those libertarian ideas are looking really appealing right now. And then the cycle repeats and people fall for it over and over.
Yeah, I think so. With the infighting, again, as a party, as an ideological party, you're going to have infighting. If you don't have infighting, you're not a healthy ideological party. Because again, it's not so much about the policies, it's about the rationale. And so your rationale is going to lead you to different policies, just depending on where you start from and how you perform that ideological calculus. So the infighting, for me, I don't see as an inherently bad thing. Infighting that I don't like is personal infighting. I am very bored by single people. I like ideas, and I like events. And when you have drama between specific people in a party, that's when things really start to converge on personality and start to converge on pettiness that doesn't matter. And you can have a strong chair model under that way of doing things that is very toxic to what you're trying to do. You can, in theory, have a strong chair model that is not toxic because it's not personality based, but that's a lot more difficult to do. Again, we have multiple fronts in this fight. The Libertarian Party is one of them. And we need to be, if we want to actually have power as a movement, we need to be going into the Republican and Democratic parties and infiltrating. That just can't be the only thing that we do. We need to be gatekeeping ideologically within the Libertarian Party as we continue to build coalitions outside the Libertarian Party, because while we cannot win this fight by ourselves, we do have to understand who we are as a party, and that needs to be kept consistent. So cheers to Mike. I think it's good to have him in the GOP, and what I would love to see is I would love to see more Liberty Democrats start going over there as well. I think that people can do a lot of good work. I'm going to mention Project Liberal. I would love to see a lot of folks from Project Liberal go to the Democratic Party, and some of them go to the Republican Party, and try and move the needle that way. This is going to take, again, this is a war on multiple fronts here.
Right. Yeah, I've always been of two minds. Sorry, go ahead.
I said, just don't let her lie to you, Liberal Party. She hates you.
I don't hate them. I just Kyle, stop.
You know the scene from
the scandal
from Revenge of the Sith where Anakin slaughters all the children. That would be Amanda with Liberal Party.
Not for a long time. We have many, many happy years ahead of us before all of that. And I will try to convince you to change your ways.
They need to gain an actual foothold before we consider them enough of a threat to do something like that. Yeah, I've always been of two minds when it comes to the infighting, because when it comes to things like our platform and our mission statement, yeah, the infighting is what ensures that we stick to our principles, that we are kept honest. So there is a place for that. At the same time, though, like when it comes to doing real world political activism, which again, like a third party, one of its purposes, in my opinion, is to serve as a front for networking and doing real world activism. Purity spirals are one of the most destructive things you can get. Okay. What you need are people who are willing to work together for a common set goal. It could be ending the drug war, or at least decriminalizing drug use, or it could be ending qualified immunity for police. Last thing you want are people who are busy fighting over minute differences when they could be focusing on this one thing.
So I think that's kind of the biggest problem. And a little shameless self-promotion, I did post an article about this about a month ago on the Torch about the difference between us and Republicans and Democrats, where we operate on principle, and that's what we have, and they operate to win. The end game is, in fact, the is it not the torch? Kyle's messing with me.
It is the torch.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Listen, asshole.
Were you telling him to call it by a different name, or yeah? Sorry, go on, Rob.
No, it's because the torch site is currently down, and it's my
the torch site is currently being made into its own site, which is good. But anyway, Rob, go on.
LPNC.org as well.
It doesn't exist.
Yeah. But yeah, so we fight for principle, and when that's all we have, and the other two parties fight to win, and the end game is just winning, so it doesn't matter what the principle is, we get very, let's say, pedantic, to be nice, about the principles. And it's like someone asked me, this came up like a few weeks ago, like, you want to get rid of all foreign military bases? And I'm like, yeah, I do. But we have something like 895. I'd be real happy if we could get down to like 450. We'd still have more than every other country in the world put together. You know, we'd still be sending $300 billion a year on keeping soldiers in harm's way in foreign countries and aggravating their citizens and making people hate us. But we get so caught up in like you said, right? Like purity tests. You know, it's not enough to move the needle. Like, how dare you? And I guess, I mean, to be fair, there is some argument, like, if we support something because it goes in the right direction, is that sort of giving tacit support to where it ends? It's a tricky game. Politics is a tricky game, and they do it on purpose, and they require money, and it's a lot of marketing, and it's a big game of who can. It's like Hungry Hippos, except the marbles are power with our rights wrapped up in them.
Right?
You can't mention Hungry Hippos. There's a bad connotation now.
About that.
We've tainted that game. That game has been, yeah. Hungry
We need to
Hippos.
make our own version, but we're gonna have a lot more than just like labels printed on it. Like, actually redesign the hippos to make them unique looking.
That's too much work, Rose. We're all about efficiency here.
Okay, fine.
Moving on. We have a scuffle between Bill Redpath, LNC Treasurer Bill Redpath, and current chair of the Libertarian Party of New Hampshire, Ben Weir. This comes from Independent Political Report. Treasurer Bill Redpath filed a resolution, or rather moved to censure the Libertarian Party of New Hampshire. I will read the motion. And they're actually both the Libertarian Party of New Hampshire and Libertarian Party of Colorado. Whereas the Libertarian Party of New Hampshire has regularly posted social media content that reasonable people would consider to have racist meanings, which with other inflammatory posts has cast the Libertarian Party in a bad light on the national stage. Whereas the Libertarian Party of New Hampshire has violated bylaws Article 5.4 by endorsing Donald Trump for president of the United States. Whereas the Libertarian Party of New Hampshire's conduct has made it clear that it has no concern for being a part of an affiliation that impacts not only New Hampshire, but the other affiliated states. This is the segue into the free state movement entirely. Be it therefore resolved that the Libertarian National Committee censures the Libertarian Party of New Hampshire for its conduct and invites them to voluntarily disaffiliate, cease use of the Libertarian Party name, and allow another group in line with the values of the Libertarian Party to petition for affiliation. The one for LP Colorado is briefer, whereas the Libertarian Party of Colorado has recently posted social media content that reasonable people would consider to have racist meanings, including the use of a blatantly anti-Semitic image with an origin in white supremacist circles, which has cast the Libertarian Party in a bad light on the national stage, whereas the chair of the Libertarian Party of Colorado behaved in a completely unacceptable manner in her official, not private capacity that was of sufficient gravity to be the subject of a major newspaper article and caused rebuke from the National Libertarian Party chair. Be it therefore resolved that the Libertarian National Committee censures the Libertarian Party of Colorado for such conduct. Interestingly, does not invite them to voluntarily disaffiliate just yet. In response to this motion, Ben Weir called anyone who voted in favor of the resolution an enemy to the cause of liberty, so that they would be treated as an enemy to the cause of liberty. They would face his and the state party's wrath. There would be no tolerance for unjust interference, Kyle.
That sounds like a NAP violation waiting to happen.
Full and unapologetic wrath, by the way, not just any wrath. Full and unapologetic.
Okay, well that means business there.
In case you liked your wrath, vague and meek and conciliatory, this is not the kind of wrath that we're talking about here.
I'm sorry to be doing this. Yeah, that's not that type of wrath.
Right. Enemy to the cause of liberty. Now, there are actual enemies to the cause of liberty, I would say, and they are members of our duopolistic system, and those who endorse it. I think many of them are enemies to the cause of liberty. I do not think anyone who moves to censure any party, even if they've been behaving in a completely above board manner, is an enemy to the cause of liberty. This degree of hyperbole is what makes it so difficult to take the Libertarian Party of New Hampshire seriously, among many other reasons. Rob, how do you like your wrath? Do you like it unapologetic, or do you like it meek and mild?
So I do have some feelings about this. I like Ben a lot, actually. I don't agree with everything. I certainly have vast issues with LPNH and their postings. They directly caused some real big fund donors to back out of our governor campaign, like tens of thousands of dollars with their Nina Turner post. I think Ben probably pushes the envelope a little more than is healthy sometimes, but when you pay attention to Ben versus the other stuff coming out of there, I don't think they align. Ben responded in full and actually said he felt like the wrong parts of the message had been highlighted, and he's spoken on the phone with Karen, with Paul Darn, with Bill Redpath, and they've actually made some progress. He said he very much does not want to hamper other people and is really willing to communicate. I thought that was really refreshing, because in the past when it's been like, hey, you're messing stuff up for other people, the LPNH has been like, well, you all are a bunch of gay retards and we're the only free state. And I would just like to throw out that I am strongly of the opinion, and can back it up with a lot of fact, that North Carolina is the best affiliate in the country. We are the free state. Our laws, our elections, we had 20% of all third-party state-level candidates in the United States of America in North Carolina last year.
We all know
okay,
that
but
North Carolina's number one claim to fame is that they're the superior Carolina because South Carolina started the Civil War. That's all North Carolina's got going for it.
I'm going to plug what I said. I love my state, but also this, we hear about the Free State Project, and I'm waiting to see like it's been a minute. Where's the freedom? There's a lot of fighting. There's a lot of making it more difficult for everyone else, but I'm optimistic. I think Ben is a serious chair. He was, a principled anarchist, which I still am not sure what that is, but I'm working on it. But he was like, I don't want to get involved in electoral politics, but I have to. Like, things are going too far, and I can relate to that. And I think he is really trying and really open to communication and really open to strategic involvement with others as well. Colorado, on the other hand, you want to see a real decentralized approach so we can try different strategies and see what works. And I can envision a scenario where an alliance with either the Republican or the Democrat Party at a state level could work, I guess. I don't think that's what happened in Colorado. I mean, that feels like just a full sellout, like in every single way. That one is disaffiliation, central power. I'm incredibly uneasy with, but I know that one does. I kind of get it.
Right. Like, I can appreciate the fact that like Ben was at least outspoken about like the partnership with RFK. Like, why are we selling out to this pro-Zionist shill? But yeah, the LPCO thought that they could partner with RFK in order to break their duopolistic system, which, look, okay, living in New York, I get the desire to want to do that. It's just like they thought that they actually did something by having him sign the Liberty Pledge. It's like, I guarantee he and his handlers were laughing the entire time he signed his name on that, because, yeah, there was no way, even if anything had happened, there was no way he was going to actually adhere to that.
Don't sign a pledge with a statist. I don't know why people continue to do these things.
I was going to say, as far as the most libertarian affiliate, though, okay. the LPNY has everyone else beat in that we were the first ones to pass a resolution against the LPNH and the LPCO. It led to a multi-day Twitter battle, or X battle as it's called now. So we beat all of the rest of you.
Here's the thing.
Okay, I got $5 on Rose over Rob just because Rob's back's been bad for a while. She's gonna get him with the agility.
Actually, I'm feeling great. I've been sober for like 2 months. I've been getting up and working out.
Sweet.
Maybe my $5 has changed its size, Rose.
Well, what about working out when you're not sober, though? Isn't that the superior way to do it?
I was doing that for a while, and apparently that is not good for your blood pressure because the doctor gave me a pretty stern warning. So
Probably not. Yeah.
It's one of those establishment doctors. You shouldn't listen to them anyhow. So this is a motion to censure.
not an RFK doctor.
My understanding from reading Reddit and Twitter is that if the doctor ever suggested a vaccine to anyone, they're a monster, and so you should be careful on him.
My understanding of this, it is a motion to censure, right? Of course, it's not a motion to disaffiliate. It's nothing like that. Are these just kind of a waste of time? I mean, I understand. I actually think that here there is a value to virtue signaling outside the party. If you want to send a message that, we are not LP New Hampshire, we are not LP Colorado, then do that publicly. Doing it internally within the Libertarian Party, especially when you know that it's destined to fail. Joe agrees with me for once and not very often. He says it's a waste of time. Is a motion to censure just kind of virtue signaling that doesn't even get noticed? Or is there value here? What's your opinion, Kyle?
So, I have been on multiple presidential campaigns as far as trying to get people involved in the LP. I've been part of national in Georgia. I've paid my membership dues to LP Pinellas down in Florida because those guys are awesome. I've stated before that my goal is to end up being a life member at every affiliate nationwide. And until 2022, and campaigning for Chase's Senate campaign, I had never heard anyone point to an affiliate or anything else and say, I won't be a libertarian because of those guys. There was never a specific thing. There was always the libertarians are just Republicans that want to smoke weed. They're just this or that or the other. There's all the things you hear about the party as a whole that come mostly from the Uniparty trying to smear us. But they had never pointed out any real libertarians who were doing these horrible things. And starting in 2022, I have consistently heard about New Hampshire. And while doing some campaigning for Georgia, trying to get some ballot access going and everything else, I've started to hear about LP Colorado. There is an important thing here with that messaging, which, given the number of times Amanda and I have argued about messaging offline, it's going to be a weird thing that I'm the one talking about messaging here, because I'm usually I don't care about messaging. She thinks it's really important. She's probably right, but
very important.
With enough pointing at people, they'll do things. You go do the thing.
So they're not outside the party. Go on.
Okay.
To make your point. Make your point, Kyle.
If you aggressively walk at anybody pointing at them, they'll move the other way.
I've tried it, Kyle, and nobody listens to me. So I don't know what you're doing that's different.
You cannot be blown away and be used as a kite. That's step one.
I thought that was the whole point, though. Blown away, but in a controlled manner.
There we go. Yes.
Amanda's jacket flaps open and she's gone. But so I've started
in a
actually
controlled manner, though. That's the whole point.
Have you seen Amanda fly past in a controlled manner?
I think that the fact that she hasn't
once or
seen me fly
twice.
past proves my point entirely.
It's because she consistently gets blown out to the Michigan Lake Michigan. Anyway, my point. I'm sorry, I'm sick, and so Amanda's going to have to deal with my wrath slightly more than normal.
Full and unapologetic wrath.
My full and slightly apologetic wrath, just not to Amanda. So the at the point where I'm hearing people say they can't, in good conscience, join the party because of a specific affiliate, and saying that that affiliate represents all of us, something has to be done.
Right.
We know for a fact that there are not the votes to actually remove New Hampshire right now. So you could throw that one out there. It's going to immediately get shot down by the LNC. It's not what even the people who are fighting for LPNH inside of LPNH want. It's just not going to go anywhere. And so it'll just be another failure that they're going to use to market to say, see, the people want us. A censure destroys the one thing the LPNH considers itself good at, which is messaging. Given their messaging is potato. It is horrible. It's like you went to get a steak dinner and they only put the potato in front of you. No butter, no sour cream, no nothing. You cut it open and it turns out it's not even a potato.
What is happening?
So it's not a steak that's well done. It's not even a steak at all. Okay.
Correct. It's just a potato.
In
Wow.
a desperate attempt to bring this somewhere back to the realm of sanity, the
Yeah,
charge,
don't let sick people on the show.
the charge that LP New Hampshire would levy at you is that, look, I mean, Bill Redpath is a leftist, socialist, enemy of the freedom of people, and he does not know anything about libertarianism, and we are actually messaging to principled libertarians who are coming into our state en masse. Please don't check the actual numbers. Like, I mean, so I don't know that it would necessarily weaken their sense of power. It would just vindicate them, and in their case, that the Libertarian Party is full of leftists and people who just don't understand them, man.
Mm-hmm.
Well, see, I got to read a passage from one of my favorite authors here. One of my favorite modern authors. It is consistent with the preference X to remove those elements not consistent with preference X from an organization crafted for the purpose of furthering preference X.
This person sounds
Therefore,
like Blowhard.
Maybe a little bit.
Most of the article was good. I got beef with her beef with libertines, though.
They're libertine. They're libertine reactionaries, not reactionary libertines. Go on.
That's fair. I take it back then.
Thank you.
Therefore, it's consistent with libertarianism to remove those elements inconsistent with libertarianism from an organization crafted for purposes of furthering libertarianism. We in the Libertarian Party may disaffiliate our ideological adversaries from our ranks and call our actions libertarian. We should not, however, consider it necessarily libertarian to refuse, on principle, to associate with ideological adversaries outside the party. At the end of the day, they're not wanting to be part of National. They've made it clear they don't want to be part of National. They don't want to be part of the movement. They say they're focused on just New Hampshire. Let them be focused on New Hampshire. We don't have the ability to actually remove them at the moment. The best thing we can do is censure them so that they're at least removed from messaging of the Libertarian Party. I would love to have a discussion about this with Ben. I would love to hear his thoughts and him tell me I'm an idiot. I've invited him on this show and he hasn't said yes. So if someone can convince Ben to come on the show and argue with me, I will happily do it, and I will buy him his choice of hamburger.
I'd be happy to have Ben on as well.
What
you give him
restaurant,
a
would the hamburger be coming from, though?
His
It
choice.
would be a hamburger without yellow number 5 now, right?
That's an excellent segue, Rose. Thank you for actually following the agenda for the show. Because yes, as long as that hamburger is not lab grown and from Montana, because this is now verboten. So we have yet another ban on what is called lab grown meat. This is a process by which these stem cells or the cells of an animal are extracted and grow into meat. This is either a very, very low cruelty or cruelty-free process, depending on where you put the line of consent. But this is not a good thing for the ranchers of Montana. So Governor Greg Gianforte says so-called lab-grown meat. First of all, it's either so-called or it's in quotes. If you're saying so-called, you don't also put it in quotes. You pick one or the other. This man says so-called lab-grown meat, pick one, has no place in Montana.
It's either grown in the lab or it's not.
And it's either so-called or it's in quotes. Like that. I see. You don't have to anyway.
So-called. Wait. So what's
It's
the so-called?
Maybe he's
part?
putting
Meat.
so-called in
Wait,
quotes
it's
because
not really a lab. He's saying it's not
Like a
really a
double
lab,
negative.
or it's not really meat. Like, what's the so-called in reference to?
That's the thing.
I hate people who can't be precise.
Don't think he knows. By signing HB 401 into law, I am proud to defend our way of life and the hardworking Montana ranchers who produce the best beef in the world. As many have already pointed out, if you do indeed produce the best beef in the world, then you don't have to worry about lab-grown beef, do you? Because
It's
you're
down to
producing the
lab-
best beef in the world.
Last I checked, it was down to like $20,000 per burger. So I don't think they have to worry about competition anytime soon.
They actually have made it more affordable. They're making it rapidly more affordable.
Okay.
It is now available like in various restaurants and stuff. I think in San Francisco there's a place. Yeah. So this is obviously a huge threat to people who are in the ranching industry, who are in livestock industries. And again, this is a perfect example. Yes, Kyle.
It looks like lab-grown meat is down to about $8 a pound as of the end of last year.
Wow, that was rapid. Yeah.
That's how innovation works. That is exactly how innovation works. It's wonderful.
I think the biggest issue was producing the tissue itself wasn't the problem. It was getting it to actually taste the same, because it's not a.
That might be.
Apparently, it tastes much different when it's grown in a petri dish versus actually being part of an animal.
I watched the John Stossel special.
Yeah.
People couldn't tell the difference. When John Stossel gave it to them anyhow, people couldn't tell the difference. Maybe he's just magical. I'm totally willing to believe that. But I thought meat came from animals. Anyway, so sorry. I love him. He's great. This is a case of, innovation displacing prior industries. It is potentially much more affordable and efficient to manufacture lab-grown meat anywhere in the world. You can do a lot more with a lot less. You can take cruelty concerns aside, which people do have, and you're able to do a lot with resolving hunger. This is a case of lobbyists run amok. This is a case of people being in the back pockets of various interest groups. But don't think for a second that if this were some kind of industry on which unions had a stranglehold, that a Democratic lawmaker would be any better. That's the other thing. There's plenty of blame to go around on both sides. Anytime you see automation and innovation rendering certain exploitative industries obsolete, whether it's the exploitation of the worker, whether it's the exploitation of an animal or whatever else, you see lobbyists and unions push back depending on what side you're on. This has evoked, I'm very happy to say, quite a bit of ire and a lot of very close to an even ratio on comments to likes for this man. But Kyle, is Montana beef the best beef in the world, and why do you hate liberty?
Because I'm friends with a Trotskyist, and she just gets to me sometimes. So, little known fact for most of the people who are watching, I grew up on farms. We had cattle. I have dealt with raising cattle and slaughtering cattle, and the odd feelings that come with watching something you thought of as a pet become dinner. It's a thing, but I am very aware of how beef gets to the table, and I am very aware of high-tier beef around the country. Montana's good quality beef. No dog, but they're not Texas. It's not close. The Texas Longhorns are routinely considered the best there is for a reason. Montana's a bunch of Holsteins. That's the same as everybody else for the most part.
I don't know the words that he's saying, by the way. I'm assuming that these are cows.
I thought it was
Holsteins are the black and white ones. Those are the most common cows.
Yeah.
I thought it was like Holstein, Slytherin, Gryffindor.
That's pretty close. Wingardium bovinosa. But so that's how you get light beef. So Holsteins are often used as beef in low quality areas. They're supposed to be milk cows. Susan's not wrong there. But they are often used as beef in low quality areres.
When they run out of milk, they usually end up becoming
Yes.
ground beef when they get too old
Right.
to be dairy cows.
Right.
And same with the males, like when they're born, like there's not much use of them other than as for beef.
Yes. So if you look at the places that win awards for their beef, Georgia's won awards, Texas routinely wins. It's not Montana. Montana's good, solid quality, but they don't win at dairy. They're not Vermont. They're not Wisconsin.
So you're saying that they actually do need to have protectionist policies because they don't have the best beef. That's where we're going with this.
In my opinion, this is a good way to get me back on track. Good job. In my opinion, the best thing there is to leave the free market open, right? If you don't have the best beef, you won't sell. Right now, your beef is cheaper than this lab-grown meat. If your meat is tasting better and is cheaper, it's going to sell. If you can't compete with lab-grown meat and it tastes just as good or better and it's cheaper, that's your problem. Make it better. Figure out how to be better. Innovate. It's just protectionist nonsense. It's blatantly like socialism that the same people who claim to be against socialism are all for, because protectionism is good if it's for the American worker, not recognizing that that's socialism. That's what it is.
Rose, why do you hate the American ranchers that are working so hard to keep out competition?
Well, because I work in the biological sciences industry, and we stand to make it. Okay, see, here's the thing. People don't usually go into sciences for the money. They go into it for reputation. The more papers you have your name on, the better, because the more bragging rights you get at scientific conferences. So, yeah, I'm more interested in having my name on a paper that, on a study that helped develop lab-grown meat than I am about protecting the American way of life. Okay, sorry, ranchers, but yeah, I gotta take care of my own self-interests here.
There were a lot of aspects of the American way of life throughout history that were not awesome. I don't know if people know this, but the American way of life has not always been entirely wonderful. This is a very situation-specific way of life. It is both incredibly labor-intensive and, yes, exploitative. When we are able to move away from manual, exploitative, grunt kind of labor, then people can actually engage in work that is more particular to them. This is ultimately a very good thing, but it creates a lot of pushback in the short term, especially when you have entrenched industries. What needs to happen is you need to have some kind of powerful lobby sponsor the turn to lab-grown meat, and then maybe you will actually have certain lobbyists and interests that will support free markets, because we have very few of those. When it gets down to it, it's I support free markets until they come for me. But I was very glad to see people in the comments, a lot of libertarians that I knew, tearing this guy up, because it's wonderful. Rob, next to you, why do you hate liberty?
Mostly because I really like steak. Apparently Holstein, though I'm poor. No, this shit is so dumb. So look, I'm not an anarchist. I'm a minarchist. If there's a place for government, I'm fine with requiring a label that says, like, this is lab-grown meat, your own decision. And that should be about it. And then everyone can figure it out. And I can tell you this, I am very into innovation in most areas. I like to be sort of a first adopter of things. I've also put more stuff into my body that's not good for it than most crowds of people. And I would probably not eat lab-grown meat. I would be skeptical of like the ability to recreate some of the hormones and the other chemicals that go along with it that we've evolved learning to digest. Maybe we eventually get there. But if someone else was eating it, I'd say, hey, cool, enjoy your burger. Like, and that should be that. But it's this protectionist nonsense. It actually reminds me of the deal our very conservative first real libertarian president Donald Trump signed, protecting the dock workers from any AI, while China has docks going full robotics 24/7, and they're cranking out hundreds of times what we're able to do. And we are protecting people who are probably qualified for much more advanced jobs if they would go get them, that AI could bring along, and better lifestyle, because that's what innovation does. And that's why America has been so successful. But yeah, we live in a protectionist society where politicians get bought by big special interests, and we the people suffer.
That's the thing, is it's there is no free market party anymore. That's why I'm happy that Mike Termott is going to try his best with the Republican Party. It is just different types of populism, and I guarantee you, if this were another group of people, the exact same issue, you'd have Democrats doing the exact same thing. So no one is exempt here. I wanted to touch on yet another. See, here's the thing. Our current administration likes to troll. The problem with that is that normally when trolling is just annoying, I feel like President Trump would troll people into an internment camp, like just as a bit. So many things that he's done to troll recently have been upsetting.
The best internment camp, though. Everyone says it's the best.
The most beautiful internment camps ever.
It'll be right next to the new hotels in Gaza.
Recently, the Trump administration admitted several Afrikaners identifying as refugees, or South Africans identifying as Afrikaner refugees. I don't know the correct terminology because it seems like everyone in this situation is crazy. So, of course, this is a slap in the face to people who were opposing mass deportations of people who did not have light skin. Donald Trump admits people who say that they're refugees fleeing South Africa. I was perfectly willing to be 100% upset about this until I saw the press release from Comrade Stalin. And that's not a slip of the tongue. The South African, let's see, what is the technical title? South African National Communications Manager goes by Mangaliso Stalin Konza. And that is indeed a reference to Joseph Stalin. I don't understand how you can be a country that is very agrarian and that has fought apartheid and genocide and call yourself Comrade Stalin. But I suppose different strokes for different folks. Anyhow, the South African government clapped back, saying that, let it be categorically stated, there are no Afrikaner refugees in South Africa. No section of our society is hounded, persecuted, or subject to ethnic victimization. These claims are a fabrication and a cowardly political construct designed to delegitimize our democracy and insult the sacrifices made by generations who fought for freedom. Let's see. What the instigators of this falsehood seek is not safety, but impunity from transformation. Don't know what transformation is. I imagine it's a set of social policies. They flee not from persecution, but from justice, equality, and accountability for historic privilege. So now I don't know what to believe, because that is not great language when you're trying to convince a Western audience whose political consciousness was shaped by Cold War liberalism that you're not 100% doing something kind of weird. I don't know. I don't know how to feel about these refugees. I know, obviously, this is preferential treatment to a certain category of people, which I find rather disgusting. But who's in the right, or is everyone in the wrong here?
Well, the explanation that I'm seeing is that, look at these refugees. It's not just fighting age males, it's entire families. That's the explanation I've seen for people who are normally against immigration or against refugees being okay with this. Oh, and also they're in these pictures flying American flags that are definitely not cheap mass-produced things that were handed out for a photo op.
In America, they were produced in America, Rose. It's the important thing.
I mean, okay, I guess the tariffs were high enough that they can't be produced in China any longer, so they had to have been produced in America, right? I mean, right, Trump said he was going to bring back manufacturing, so it had to have happened, right?
I can shed a little insight on this. I worked in corporate governance for a while, in like the early or late 2000s, early 2010s, and a lot of South African stuff with the whole Black economic empowerment movement. and it sort of highlights the issues of any racially or other sort of, immutable characteristic. If we're going to bring back Ben Shapiro throwback, I guess no one was listening when the Ben Shapiro reference was on, but I promise y'all it was hilarious and disgusting. When you categorize people by immutable characteristics, you lose every bit of humanity and innovation and creativity and community that's actually naturally created. So these Black empowerment movements, economic empowerment movements, were based on trying to make reparations for apartheid, which, okay, good intentions, gone completely wrong. The guy that put that press release out, you can go on YouTube and see him at a rally for the Communist Party singing the Kill the Boer song. Everything I've heard, and I know a few people over there, so this is like, it's firsthand reporting. It's not fact-based. It's definitely like he said, she said, whatever. But the stories are true. They're exaggerated, but the horror of when they happen is very true. Like, there are white farmers being deliberately hunted because of this racial tension that is being stirred up by a Communist Party that is trying to take advantage of Black anger to create a communist state. So in that regard, I'm fully in favor of taking the South African refugees. I just think we should also be taking refugees like those that were fighting next to our guys in Afghanistan, and those who are fleeing.
Peshmerga.
What?
The Peshmerga.
Yeah, exactly.
Peshmerga have fought with the United States for 100 years, and we have found 6 different times to fuck the Peshmerga over.
Right. Refugees from countries that the U.S. empire has overthrown democratically elected leaders in and installed authoritarian dictators who are now trying to flee those conditions that we created. Yes.
Like the give me your poor, you're tired, your huddled masses yearning to be free, the wretched refuse of your teeming shore. That's beautiful to me. Like that means something. I really do love this country. I consider myself a patriot. I'm not nationalist. I'm not, if that's collectivist, fine. But like, I lived in a communist country for a couple years. I've seen how bad it can be. We don't know how good we have it, and we don't know how much the rest of the world wants what we have. And when we start flaunting it and then using our power to make their lives worse, that's why people hate us.
Where did you live, Rob?
So I lived in Hong Kong. It was after the China takeover. I traveled China a whole bunch, and I saw China creeping in. And I actually have like very close friends. I can't even say what the relationship is, but they had to cut off contact with me because of social media posts I made about China.
Wow.
Yeah.
No. Yeah. I think we are in agreement that welcoming refugees is a good thing. And it is it's just about a categorically good thing that we shouldn't be discriminating on the basis of skin color as to whom we welcome in. We shouldn't be switching out brown people for white people, which is horrific and horrendous. All of these things, I think we are taught very polarized stories about South Africa, and we're now learning that no, there actually is stuff that goes on, as you said, Rob, exaggerated, but that does indeed happen. And one thing that we don't need is one of our state affiliates endorsing apartheid. So there's that, because that occasionally happens. And again, it's like one of those, I know it's a troll, but it's a very, very unhelpful troll. Final thoughts on this week's stories, things that we didn't cover and needed to cover.
Did you all, real quick, did anyone see the James Comey post about 86-47?
No. What?
I did.
In the category of news that should not be news, but this is what our country cares about instead of real stuff. James Comey, the ex-FBI director, took a picture of shells that someone had put on the beach that said 86-47. You've never worked in a restaurant. 86 means we're out or get rid of. And 47 apparently a reference to Trump. And now Kash Patel has come out and said the Secret Service is investigating this like clear insinuation on Trump's life against James Comey because of a picture he posted. So we're
clearly
serious.
An enemy of liberty. Final thoughts from you, Kyle and Rose.
Well, I mean, if we're on the subject of market interference. I mean, Trump also claims he's going to lower prescription drug costs to the lowest prices versus not just what people pay in other countries, but we're going to have the lowest prices anywhere.
That's right.
Yeah.
This was one that we didn't get to, but yes, there is a new tax plan that is just full of protectionist, populist nonsense. There is that.
But yeah, rather than doing things like eliminating patent monopolies, and eliminating some of the barriers to entry into the drug production market, he just wants to impose lower prices on the drug companies themselves, which is pretty much just guaranteed to cause mass shortages, as opposed to actually making it possible for more of the same drug to be available at lower prices.
And that's the thing. There are solutions for drug prices. There are solutions to many of these things. A lot of times the solution is, hey, there's another regulation that we need to get rid of. But there are solutions apart from, no, just keep it expensive. Usually the reason it's expensive is because of misaligned incentives from government and corporate collusion. So there is that. The more the state gets out of the market, the better. Kyle, final thoughts from you this week?
Yep. I have one more quick plug on actual news, and then I'm going to do my weekly ad for the LP here. Libertarian Lars Mapstead has started a new nonprofit called the Voting Rights Foundation. He's working across the country trying to make sure that voting rights are in fact saved per state, because as we know, the Uniparty hates us. And so they do their absolute best to make sure we're not on the ballots because we're scary. We are tiny black kittens that are angry and mew at them a lot. So we, I like that you gave yourself away on that one. I didn't even say anything.
I think it was obvious. Go on. Tell your story.
So as Lars puts it, I'll just read his original tweet on it. My newest nonprofit is up and running. Please give it a follow. We aim to create a free market in American politics in order to stop political violence. So, if anybody in the LP is able to throw the money down for a nonprofit to actually get some ballot access out there through changing laws, it's probably Libertarian Lars. And speaking of no one else in the LP having any money, the Libertarian Party's broke. We got rid of the reason that we're broke, but we're still broke for now. So we got rid of the biggest reason we're broke. We got rid of the person who was like, I got a credit card, I gotta go spend. And so now we're just left with the debt.
Yeah, if you're waiting for us to get better before you donate, well, we kind of need your donation in order to get better. So it's creating a problem if you keep putting off donating. Just saying.
Yep. The LNC is currently, believe it or not, they're pushing a ballot access initiative. When's the last time you heard that from the LNC? It's been like 5 years now. Yeah. So they are trying to actually get things on track again. They're trying to back data. All these things do cost money. A bunch of us are working without pay because we are volunteers and we would love to get paid. So
I get paid in love and friendships.
That's pretty much it, right?
That's a lot.
I get
Mostly.
paid in
Perhaps
autistic
the
hugs,
real
which are
payment
excellent
was
hugs.
the friends we made along the way.
I
Both of
don't
them.
make friends. I just the real payment is always the revolution. And that is all. Kyle, do your plug to give the Libertarian Party money. Finish it.
So make sure to head to lp.org/donate. Even if you give $5, it is something. Realistically, sign up for that $3 a month membership. Get you a membership, means you can vote, means you're a National Libertarian member.
And it means you can run for alternate, unlike Jim Wiley. Look at that.
Who cannot read a calendar. So $3 a month will make sure that you too can read a calendar. Donate $3 a month, and you too can help an underprivileged Jim Wiley learn how to read calendars. And so that's pretty much it for this week.
I'd like to make a motion to add that to the donation page officially.
Here we go. We could always do that. Thank you, all three of you. And thank you all for joining us. We will be back next week with another episode. Until then, we are the Business List.